Welcome everybody here to chapter 80 in Jasher. We have these plagues against Pharaoh, against all his subjects, and I tell you, this is the same way the Lord's going to do in our time, only he's going to be more angry. The book of Revelation says that he's going to be so angry that none of the host can go in and out before his throne until the vengeance is over with. We have extreme details here on what he did to Egypt, deservingly. Drinking the blood, well, you wanted to bathe in the baby's blood, didn't you, Pharaoh? Well, now you get all the blood you want. And there's this beast that comes out of the sea after him, this Sulanuth. Okay? And she comes up and does what she does. Okay, is that in Revelations 2? Listen, there's every kind of crazy, angelic creature in Revelations. So if people want to poo-poo that and interpret, oh, that locust creature, that serpent that came up, that scorpion type creature that comes up out of the bottomless pit, that's a helicopter. Oh, please. Please, you're just talking out of the other side of your face. That's terrible. What I'm telling you here is that the Lord is going to do this to the same people. See, Pharaoh had to have his, as his sorcerer said, to kill all these children one a day and all this other stuff. All the plagues he did to the women, raping the women, right? Doing what he did to young men and their fathers. He sees every bit of it, and he sees what they're doing today, folks. This harmonizes really well with the wisdom of Solomon. I suggest everybody go back to the Apocrypha in the Old Testament and look at how Solomon describes the plagues that went down here. It harmonizes really, really good. So again, vengeance is the Lord's, okay? And we got to think outside the box. We got to think with the 7,000-foot view here. You can't be a carnal person. God does what he will, and it shows his armies. These are the ways he punishes the people with the plagues, okay? In fact, we started reading Joel last Sunday, and it was talking there about his armies and the palmer worm and them eating up everything right before the day of the Lord, where there was no wine, no oil. See, these are the armies of the Lord, and he has special creatures that are waiting for Judgment Day that he created. And you can't get that from 8th grade science class. Okay, you gotta let your mind expand past what you've been told and taught. You have to take an extra look. You gotta get up to the reality of what's in these doctrines, what's in the Bible, and this here harmonizing right along with the Bible. Okay, it really does. It does really good. It harmonizes really good with Revelation, and it harmonizes good with Exodus there. So, okay, with that in mind, we're going to get into these plagues against the Egyptians, and rightly so. Folks, you went over a lot of things they were doing to Israel. And folks, you and I know they deserve every stitch of this. So here we go in 80 in the book of Jasher, verse 1. It says, "And at the end of 2 years the Lord again sent Moses to Pharaoh to bring forth the children of Israel and to send them out of the land of Egypt. And Moses went and came to the house of Pharaoh, and he spoke to him the words of the Lord who had sent him. But Pharaoh would not hearken to the voice of the Lord, And God roused his might in Egypt upon Pharaoh and his subjects. And God smote Pharaoh and his people with very great and sore plagues. Folks, that's what he's going to do against the followers of Lucifer, the followers of the Antichrist, the false prophet, and this talking shrine in Jerusalem. That's the same thing. He's going to be more angry than he is here. And he has vengeance and he has the glory coming. And he's going to put his saints in the barn. Okay? Now that, friends, is a similitude, in the barn. It's not a literal barn. That's the similitude, allegoric language. It's simple. Very simple. There's no interpreting the Bible. The Bible interprets itself. Okay? It explains itself. So there's no reason not to understand every word of your King James Bible. In 3 it says, And the Lord sent by the hand of Aaron, and turned all the waters of Egypt into blood, with all their streams and rivers. See, they drink blood in their occult religion, their Baal worship religions. Okay? And again, I go back to this sorcerer that said, hey, you need to kill a child a day and that'll take care of your disease. Okay, isn't that ducky? And it's no different than the abortions that go on in our time, in our country, in our world. And if anybody out there thinks that God won't avenge every drop of innocent blood, then they don't know their Bible, do they? And they certainly don't know prophecy. Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. Yes, sir. In 4 it says, And when an Egyptian came to drink and draw water, he looked into his pitcher, and behold, all the water was turned into blood. And when he came to drink from his cup, the water in the cup became blood. Okay, folks, that's exactly what's going to happen in the book of Revelation, in the 21 judgments there. 5, it says, And when a woman kneaded her dough and cooked her victuals, their appearance was turned to that of blood. Period. And the Lord sent again and caused all their waters to bring forth frogs. And all the frogs came into the house of the Egyptians. Period. Okay, so you see here the three frog-like creatures that go out and deceive the nations, that come out of the mouth of the false prophet and the Antichrist, etc., and out of the dragon. 3 frog-like demons. Well, here they're getting their share of regular frogs here, but what are the frogs doing? Let's see. 7, And when the Egyptians drank, their bellies were filled with frogs, and they danced in their bellies as they dance when in the river. So if anybody ever seen a frog, how he kicks his legs and strokes and moves out, well, there you go. And all their drinking water and cooking water turned to frogs. Also, when they lay in their beds, their perspiration bred frogs. So this is what the Wisdom of Solomon says. When he does these judgments, he does supernatural judgments. So no one can say it just happened. He makes sure that the people being plagued understand that it is from God. Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. In 9, notwithstanding all this, the anger of the Lord did not turn from them, and his hand was stretched out against all the Egyptians to smite them with every heavy plague. And this is coming right back here during the 7-year tribulation. And we're getting a nice running start to that as the peace agreement is on its way. Okay, the 2,300 day week of years through the Antichrist, his Oslo type peace agreement. Okay, anyway, in 10 it says, and he sent and smote their dust to lice, and the lice became in Egypt to the height of 2 cubits upon the earth. Folks, that is a lot of lice. That is a lot. In 11, the lice were also very numerous in the flesh of man and beast, in all the inhabitants of Egypt. Also upon the king and queen the Lord sent the lice, and it grieved Egypt exceedingly on account of the lice. 12, notwithstanding this, the anger of the Lord did not turn away, and his hand was still stretched out over Egypt. And the Lord sent all kinds of beasts of the field into Egypt, and they came and destroyed all Egypt, man and beast and trees and all things that were in Egypt. And this is going to be what it's like. This is what it's going to be like for the people that love Lucifer and worship this false prophet, the big horn, the little horn, the Antichrist, Lucifer. Now listen to this. How many places are there fiery flying serpents in the Bible? Well, it's plentiful in the Bible, and here it is in Jasher. And the Lord sent fiery serpents, scorpions, mice, weasels, toads, together with others creeping in dust. Flies, hornets, fleas, bugs, gnats, and gnats. Each swarm according to its kind. Okay? So everybody, they try to mingle kinds out here with their DNA tampering, right? And that angers the Lord. Well, he's going to judge them with every one of these things within its kind. I'll tell you, this kind of plague is tough. These hornets are nothing to mess with. Anyway, 16, and all reptiles and winged animals according to their kind came to Egypt and grieved the Egyptians exceedingly. And the fleas and flies came into the eyes and ears of the Egyptians. Period. In 18, and the hornet came upon them and drove them away, and they removed from it into their inner rooms, and it pursued them. So there's no, when these bugs come in, there's nothing can stop them. Listen to this now. And when the Egyptians hid themselves on account of the swarm of animals, they locked their doors after them. And God ordered the Solanath, which was in the sea, to come up and go into Egypt. And she had long arms, 10 cubits in length, of the cubit of a man. How about that? And she went upon the roofs and uncovered the raftering and flooring, and cut them, and stretched forth her arm into the house, and removed the lock and the bolt, and opened the houses of Egypt. Now that's one that ain't in our Old Testament, but there's plenty in the Old Testament. Okay, plenty. Afterward came the swarm of animals into the houses of Egypt, and the swarm of animals destroyed the Egyptians, and it grieved them exceedingly. Notwithstanding this, the anger of the Lord did not turn away from the Egyptians, and his hand was yet stretched forth against them. And God sent the pestilence, and the pestilence pervaded Egypt in the horses and asses, and in the camels, in herds of oxen and sheep, and in man. Now this it harmonizes with Old Testament prophets, where these plagues were sent like this right here over the animals, over these, useful animals like the horses and asses and camels. These plagues are mentioned again in the Old Testament prophets, okay? Okay. In fact, when I first read it, I was kind of baffled. The plague of the camel and it was in the history. I didn't know the history back then when I was a pup. But here it is. And when the Egyptians rose up early in the morning to take their cattle to pasture, they found all their cattle dead. Okay, now there goes your food, there goes your wealth. And there remained of the cattle of the Egyptians only 1 in 10. And the cattle belonging to Israel in Goshen, not one died. And God sent a burning inflammation in the flesh of the Egyptians, which burst their skins, and it became a severe itch in all the Egyptians, from the soles of their feet to the crowns of their head. Ouch. Oh, that's brutal, folks. But they didn't think nothing when they were busy killing the kids and building the wall and placing the young man or woman, attacking the kids like they did, attacking the Egyptians. They deserve every stitch of God's judgment. And that's what I'm saying. When it comes to the book of Revelations, man deserves every bit of it. Okay? And that's just that. God will not plague people that are not deserving. His judgment is righteous. Okay, in 28, and many boils were in their flesh, that their flesh wasted away until they became rotten and putrid. Notwithstanding this, the anger of the Lord did not turn away, and his hand was still stretched out over all Egypt. Now here's one that is in the Old Testament. And the Lord sent a very heavy hail, which smote their vines and broke their fruit trees and dried them up, that they fell upon them. Okay? And he's going to use that exact plague there in the judgments in the book of Revelation during the tribulation. (31) Also every green herb became dry and perished, for a mingling fire descended amidst the hail. Therefore the hail and the fire consumed all things. And in the book of Revelations, it also has blood there in this hail. And the hail, and the last hail there is, what is the weight of the hail?
Which is about 85 pounds.
It's about 85 pounds apiece. Okay. And that's the kind of hail that's going to come down there in God's judgments. Here we have the fire intermingled with it. 32. Also men and beasts that were found abroad perished of the flames of fire and of hail, and all the young lions were exhausted. And the Lord sent and brought numerous locusts into Egypt, the Chazel, Salam, Chargol, and Chargol, locusts each of its kind, which devoured all that the hail had left remaining. And that's the type of judgment that's right in the middle of Revelation 34. Then the Egyptians rejoiced at the locusts, although they consumed the produce of the field. And they caught them in abundance and salted them for food. So they were hungry, and so that they considered that food. And the Lord turned a mighty wind of the sea, which took away all the locusts, even those that were salted, and thrust them into the Red Sea. Now this is in the Old Testament. Not one locust remained within the borders of Egypt. 36. And God sent darkness upon Egypt, that the whole land of Egypt and Pathros became dark for 3 days, so that a man could not see his hand when he lifted it to his mouth. Now, for an exact description of this, go there to the Old Testament Apocrypha and read the Wisdom of Solomon, okay? And he gives a description of this peculiar darkness that's in judgment, okay? It's very interesting, okay? All right, in 37, and at that time died many of the people of Israel who had rebelled against the Lord, and who would not hearken to Moses and Aaron, and believed not in them that God had sent them. That's another thing. Do we have trouble discerning who's who out here, folks? Or has God given us the discernment through the Holy Ghost to know the wheat from the chaff, the sheep from the goat, the right from the left? No, we have to have judgment. And here they did not. And in 38 it says, and who said, we will not go forth from Egypt, lest we perish with hunger in a desolate wilderness, and who would not hearken to the voice of Moses. So then again, we got to go with the people that the Lord has empowered. 39, and the Lord plagued them in the 3 days of darkness, and the Israelites buried them in those days, without the Egyptians knowing of them, or rejoicing over them. Okay, now, this description, I really encourage everybody to get back there. Now, we're going to do the whole Wisdom of Solomon out of the Apocrypha. I haven't got to that yet here at podcast. We do have it in the archives, and we're going to do it again here soon. Then in 40 it says, and the darkness was very great in Egypt for 3 days, and any person who was standing when the darkness came remained standing in his place. And he that was sitting remained sitting, and he that was lying continued lying to the same state. And he that was walking remained sitting upon the ground in the same spot. And this thing happened to all the Egyptians until the darkness had passed away. And the days of darkness passed away, and the Lord sent Moses and Aaron to the children of Israel, saying, celebrate your feast and make your Passover, For behold, I come in the midst of the night amongst all the Egyptians, and I will smite all their firstborn, from the firstborn of man to the firstborn of beast. When I see your Passover, I will pass over you. And that's, of course, described vividly there in the Old Testament. And the children of Israel did according to all that the Lord had commanded Moses and Aaron. Thus did they in that night. And remember, folks, there's going to be the one day in the book of Revelation where they're not going to, all that wealth will be worthless. See, it's going to come in one day. And here this came in one day, another parallel to how God does things. 43, and it came to pass in the middle of the night that the Lord went forth in the midst of Egypt and smote all the firstborn of the Egyptians, from the firstborn of man to the firstborn of beast. Period. And Pharaoh rose up in the night, he and all his servants and all the Egyptians. There was a great cry throughout Egypt in that night, for there was not a house in which there was not a corpse. And that's explained further in the Old Testament. Also the likeness of the firstborn of Egypt, which were carved in the walls of their houses, were destroyed and fell to the ground. Even the bones of their firstborn who had died before this, and whom they had buried in their houses, were racked up by the dogs of Egypt on that night, and dragged before the Egyptians, and cast before them. Now the dogs are getting involved in this. All creatures will serve the Lord at his command, at his voice. 47, and all the Egyptians saw this evil which had suddenly come upon them, and all the Egyptians cried out with a loud voice, and all the families of Egypt wept upon that night, each man for his son, and each man for his daughter, being the firstborn. And the tumult of Egypt was heard at a distance on that night. 49, and Bathia, the daughter of Pharaoh, went forth with the king on that night to seek Moses and Aaron in their houses. And they found them in their houses, eating and drinking and rejoicing with all Israel. And Bathia said to Moses, Is this the reward for the good which I have done to thee, who have reared thee and stretched thee out? And thou hast brought this evil upon me and my father's house? 51, and Moses said to her, Surely 10 plagues did the Lord bring upon Egypt. Did any evil accrue to thee from any of them? Did one of them affect thee? And she said, No. See how exact this is? And it's the same on Judgment Day. The angels will come down here. They're going to separate the wheat and the chaff, folks. Here, Bathia got the break. And 52, and Moses said to her, Although thou art the firstborn to thy mother, thou shalt not die, and no evil shall reach thee in the midst of Egypt. Period. And she said, What advantage is it to me when I see the king, my brother, and all his household, and subjects to this evil? whose firstborn perished with all the firstborn of Egypt. Question mark. See, all this is not in the Old Testament, so this is very fascinating. Here, in 54, and Moses said to her, surely thy brother and his household and subjects and the families of Egypt would not hearken to the words of the Lord, therefore did this evil come upon them. Period. And Pharaoh, king of Egypt, approached Moses and Aaron and some of the children of Israel who were with them in that place, and he prayed to them, saying, rise up and take your brethren, all the children of Israel who are in the land, with their sheep and oxen and all belonging to them. They shall leave nothing remaining, only pray for me to the Lord your God. And Moses said to Pharaoh, behold, though thou art thy mother's firstborn, yet fear not, for thou wilt not die, for the Lord has commanded that thou shalt live, in order to show thee his great might and strong stretched out arm. Now this is harmonizing good with the Old Testament here. 58, and Moses ordered the children of Israel to be sent away.
Read that over.
And I'll read it again, 58. And Moses ordered the children of Israel to be sent away.
No, and Pharaoh. 58.
58. And
Pharaoh.
58. And Pharaoh ordered the children of Israel to be sent away. And all the Egyptians strengthened themselves to send them. For they said, we are all perishing. Excuse my messing that up out there, folks. So Pharaoh ordered the children of Israel to be sent away. And all the Egyptians strengthened themselves to send them. For they said, we are all perishing. And all the Egyptians sent the Israelites forth with great riches, sheep and oxen, and precious things, according to the oath of the Lord between him and our father Abraham. Yeah, this goes back to Genesis 15 in the prophecy. 60. And the children of Israel delayed going forth at night. And when the Egyptians came to them to bring them out, they said to them, are we thieves that we should go forth at night? And the children of Israel asked of the Egyptians vessels of silver and vessels of gold and garments, and the children of Israel stripped the Egyptians. 62. And Moses hastened and rose up and went to the river of Egypt, and brought up from thence the coffin of Joseph, and took it with him. 63. The number of generations from Adam to Christ. The children of Israel also brought up each man his father's coffin with him, and each man the coffins of his tribe. Now, here's the thing. You can never trust these occultists. And we all know that the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart and the other people's heart. And they just had a big celebration here recently with Satanists out there at the Red Sea, where they said, well, here's the shallow part where they probably crossed. But they had a ritual on Mount Sinai, and these are cult Christian groups also that were involved because of the hatred they have for Moses. And the top level Satanists here, and I'm getting this from the Freeman family, who's a big high level Satanist family, okay? And the people that defected from there say that they are highly upset over this incident here of what happened to Pharaoh. They pine away over that. See, all this is tied directly. All Pharaoh's mythology, his religion, all that is nothing more than another face of Satanism, folks. Therefore, they had their great rituals on the occult calendar now, on the timetable of Satan. They had the occult rituals where they had the new 10 Commandments, right? They made up to save earth. Then they went out by the Red Sea mocking God in his face. Yeah, yet we haven't seen the last of this type of anger. In fact, this is light compared to what's coming on the world there in our time, as we're moving ahead, ramming the he-goat peace agreement into the tribulation.